Mike Elko coming in from Duke, obviously replacing Jimbo Fisher, who at his time, 45 and 25 overall at A&M. What is the expectations for Mike Elko going into year one?
So I think the expectations, it's just to kind of level set everything, reset the culture. We want to compete in every game. With Jimbo, it got to a point where it just felt like we weren't getting better and we were kind of stuck in a rut. And that was why we, eventually ended up making the decision to move on from him. So I think there are three things: compete in every game, improve as the season goes along. So by the end of the season, we want to show improvement from where we began. And then, for the love of God, in week 12, beat Texas and College Station.
I mean, that's fair expectations. And then Texas A&M did have a lot of guys enter the transfer portal and leave, but you guys also got a lot of players in the portal, 31 out, 28 in. Are there any particular players that you guys are looking forward to at Texas A&M, or any that have stood out so far?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a revolving door, but you guys know what happens when there are coaching changes. So a lot of the Texas A&M stuff, at least on social media, gets special treatment, I would say. But I think we're most excited about Nick Scourton, who's a transfer from Purdue. He led the Big Ten in sacks last year. He had a monster spring game, and we think he can replace at least some of the production of Walter Nolan, who left to Ole Miss. That dude's an absolute stud, and that was a big loss for us.
No, I know Texas was looking at him too, and then he had a really good spring game, I guess, with you guys. And wasn't there like a rumor? I don't know. I just could be misinterpreting this, but you guys, he wasn't in a lot because I guess he was destroying your offensive line or something of that nature.
Our offensive line struggled last year, and it wouldn't be surprising if they struggled this year. So it wouldn't be the most shocking thing if that was what was going on. But hey, if he's ready to go and he's going to replace Walter Nolan and be a dominant force on that side, I can't complain.
No, it's one of those things that's always funny to hear in camp because what you never hear, the offensive and defensive line are about even. You always hear one's better than the other, and then you have to realize, like, you go into the season not realizing, is it really because our offensive line is that good, right, or our defensive line is that bad? And that kind of gets played out during the season. So that'll be interesting. I know Bryce Foster, he went to Kansas, correct?
Yeah, I think he did end up at Kansas. He's throwing rocks over there now. Good riddance, honestly. Honestly, it might be a huge difference this year. And I talked about this in some other pods. There were so many big downs where he would throw the snap off the side of his leg and it would roll back to the quarterback. No wonder our quarterbacks got down to the third string the last 3 years in a row. We're excited to have a new center up in the middle there. Not going to lie.
Okay. And then there's a perception. I don't know if it's true or not, but sometimes perception is reality. And I feel like every day goes by, that's just more and more true. But A&M was perceived, a couple years ago when they brought in that 22 class of like just basically like strangleholding players with money. Like right now, if I had a tier of NIL, I would have Texas A&M. I think they've fallen off then, but Texas A&M, Miami, Oregon are up there. Is that a misconception of Texas A&M? And has it changed at all under Mike Elko compared to Jimbo Fisher?
I can't speak to what money's being tossed around, but in any SEC program, you'd be an idiot not to be doing that right now. I think before the NIL rule changed, there was a perception that Jimbo was doing some stuff, maybe under the table a little bit. But as far as we know, there's been no proof of anything that was, mishandled, or if there's too much money being thrown around. Yeah, we were having lots of crazy 5-stars show up. And we had some pretty big, awesome recruiting classes, but there was never any proof of, these crazy money bags getting thrown around. And players, whenever they transferred, were even kind of commenting on that on Twitter. So I think that was a little bit overblown, but we'll take it, whatever.
No, I like NIL. That's why right now Oregon is killing it right now. They've taken multiple guys from us, like 4 in the past year. NIL is legal. I have no issue with people paying for it. I think the thing is, I know how Texas treats it. There's this perception, the Lamborghinis and everything. But from what Sark has done and just the perception around the program, I think they kind of treat it like free agency. Like if we really need something, we'll pay for it. But if you're like a rotational guy, we're not going to pay you. If you can go get your money somewhere else type thing. And I just wanted to know if that is how A&M is playing with it or not.
Well, I'll tell you what, Elko kind of, when he got hired, one of the questions was, is this going to is this guy going to be able to recruit? Is he going to be able to bring guys in from the portal, whether that's using NIL or not? Obviously, we have a very good NIL system set up. I don't know the ins and outs of it, I'm not going to lie, but the results have been pretty stellar so far, all considering. He hasn't brought in as flashy players as Jimbo did, but it seems like he's filling holes pretty nicely. Well, I mean, what we're going to see when we kick off against Notre Dame in August.
Yeah, that'll be a really interesting game, and you'll know right away. But I also expect a team like a Mike Elko-led team and a younger kind of A&M team that hasn't really played together a lot because you're bringing a lot of transfers. I think you guys will get better throughout the season. I honestly think by the time we play, you'll be way better than you were week 1 versus Notre Dame. So on top of the rivalry, I expect it to be a really good game.
Yep, that's the goal. I think they're going to be kind of like a gritty team gutting out a lot of wins, like defensive slugfest type of squad. And then hopefully by the end of the year, if they protect the quarterback, they can push a little bit and put some points on the board.
Yeah, so protecting the quarterback, let's get to that because I like Connor Wegman. I think he's a good player, but the injury issues are definitely, to this point, a real thing. I know Quinn Ewers gets knocked a little bit because of his health. But overall, what do you expect from Connor Wegman if he is healthy?
So if Connor's healthy, you can ask any A&M fan that's watched that knows ball. Connor's the guy. Connor has potential to be a top 3 NFL pick. He's got all the talent in the world. He's got the leadership, all the intangible things that you could ask for in a quarterback and a leader on the team. He just hasn't been healthy. And he hasn't been healthy because the offensive line has been awful for the last 3 years. The play calling has been awful for the last 3 years. So we're hoping that this new offense, some new players around him are going to give him an opportunity to kind of shine and really show the rest of the country just who he can be and what he's capable of.
And piggybacking off of that, do you know what kind of system they're going to try to run this year? I know it was kind of a weird type of pro-style offense under Jimbo. Are there any change? I'm guessing there's going to be changes, but do you know what kind of system they're going to run?
So Colin Klein is the offensive coordinator. It's been pretty mum to this point, but I'm assuming it's going to be a little bit more forward-thinking than Jimbo's dinosaur offense, a little bit less pro-style. I mean, I think that the general setup is going to be similar, but the play calling itself is going to be a little bit more out of the box, a little bit more, we're going to run the quarterback a little bit. We're going to run some read option, throw some stuff in there like that instead of just 2 yards in a cloud of dust like we did on Jimbo.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it's going to be interesting because obviously I've seen Colin Klein call a lot of games. He does like to run his quarterback a decent amount. I don't know how that works with Wegman in the injury history. So I'm hoping for A&M fans' sake, that he does probably try to relax on that a little bit. I'm going to be straight up honest. I like Wegman, but I had him. So I ranked SEC quarterback rooms and I have A&M 10.
Ooh,
is that
God.
Yeah. You got just run through your brain real quick. Who's in the SEC? Because the SEC, by the way, is loaded at the quarterback position there this year. It's really loaded. It's way better than every other conference with quarterbacks. That's why I have him 10. Now, also, if he was healthy, if you could guarantee me health, I'd probably put him like 5 to 6.
Sure. I don't think he's injury prone. I think it's just been a matter of what's been around him and everything that we just talked about. But I think talent wise, from what we've seen, the flashes that we've seen from him, he's got all of it. He can put it all together. He can be the guy in the SEC. I mean, obviously there hasn't been a lot of production because he just hasn't played enough games. But when we've seen him play against high level competition, he's always up to standard and he always shows up. He doesn't throw a lot of bad interceptions. He's making crazy threading throws across the middle. He's got touch on it. He's got athleticism. He can run. I think, like you mentioned, Colin Klein, he's going to probably run him a little bit. I'm not too worried about that. I think that's an aspect of Connor's game that we haven't seen that can really come through this year.
No, and that's the thing. I kind of have him as the same tier as Jackson Arnold because I haven't seen enough of either of them health-wise for Connor. And then Jackson, obviously, he's a sophomore now, or he might be a redshirt freshman. I don't even know if he played enough to be considered a sophomore now. But I think I had Jackson Arnold 9th and him 10th. But those two guys could definitely move up talent-wise. And I had Nico 8th, so I had him in that tier of I know you're talented. I just haven't seen you play enough to push them up over like Graham Mertz. People don't realize had a fantastic year last year. Like if he's not the quarterback and you put in an average quarterback, Florida's even worse than they were. So sure. I had him 7th. But overall, I was high on your running backs. I have them ranked 2nd. So I think you guys have a really good running back room, and I think you rely on that. I don't know if you want to speak on that as well.
It's a good room. It's running back by committee. We're hoping that there's going to be a little separation created, hopefully by Reuben Owens. Maybe Le'Veon Moss comes in and stakes his claim. But yeah, I mean, it was very rotational last year. We're gonna see. We really don't have any idea other than, hey, we've got 3 guys that are capable of kind of carrying the load there.
No, and that's you have 3 guys. You're one of only like 3 or 4 teams in the SEC that brought back like 2 to 3 of the top guys, and they're all talented. Like Ruben Owens, I think, was the number 2 running back in his class, or maybe even number 1. So I know Texas recruited him for a minute where he went to Louisville. So overall, I like that room a lot.